it's not really a one or the other ordeal. Like, it's not like a one, and that's like probably the most common notion is that like you either believe in the principles of evolution or you believe in like Catholicism and the Catholic Church and the existence of man through like creation. And that's just like not correct. You can believe in the principles of evolution and still appreciate the significance of creation via God.
Hanna Shanar is an author, musician, medical student, and UST alum. In this episode of Bold, we talk about his book, A Search for Truth, and how the Catholic Church and science go hand in hand together. We also talk about how UST affected his journey. But before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok at MacStudioUST to see the behind the scenes at everything that we're working on. Now, let's jump into this episode of Bold with Hanna. Hi, I'm Isabel Garcia. I'm studying education at the University of St. Thomas in Houston, and I'm the host of Bold. Bold is a podcast that aims to inspire students to be your bold self through conversation with students and alumni. Hey guys, welcome back to Bold. I'm Isabel and I'm here with Hanna Shanar. Welcome to Bold.
Hi guys, thanks for having me.
All right, so tell us about yourself. Give us your elevator pitch.
Right, so I am a 23-year-old medical student in Fort Lauderdale. I am a St. Thomas graduate. I graduated in 2020 with a BA in biology. Went to Florida I'm in Florida for the med school, obviously, and wrote a best-selling book and dedicated it to the University of St. Thomas. There are a lot of inspirational people here that really helped me write this book. I also like to make music for fun. And so made a bunch of music and published it on Spotify, Apple Music. That's about me.
Dang, you do so much. Out of all the things you do, what is your favorite thing?
I think formally it has to be medical school, but probably music. And I really like writing. So that's part of the reason why I like wrote an entire book. But yeah, the majority of my time is taken up by studying for like my classes and doing schoolwork, coursework, studying to become a doctor. So,
Makes sense.
If you get sick, you can come say what's up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about your book.
Yeah.
Tell me like a little short spiel about it.
So I started writing this book my sophomore year here at St. Thomas while
Dang. That's so soon.
It's because that's when I was really just getting conflicted with a lot of different things. I was a biology major, like science major. So I was taking all these science courses and learning about evolution and the Big Bang Theory and the existence of man, like through science. And then since I'm at this is a Catholic university, at the exact same time, I was learning about the existence of man, like through creation, Genesis, and I was just conflicted. I was like, what's right? Like, they can't both be right unless they are right, And I was like really conflicted. So I sat down and just like started pouring my thoughts out into a Google Doc. And then like before I knew it, there was just like thousands of words into the Google Doc. And I was like, I could probably just like arrange this, make it sound a little bit better, like edit it and turn it into like a substantial book. And so I did that. I like divided it into some formal chapters and began like discussing, this is what I've learned through evolution. This is what I've learned through all these different theology and philosophy courses. And this is what I think the conclusion of all of this is with my current knowledge.
And what is the conclusion?
That is a loaded question.
So like who's right, science or the church?
Both.
How so?
It's not really a one or the other ordeal. Like it's not like a one, and that's like probably the most common notion is that like you either believe in the principles of evolution or you believe in like Catholicism and the Catholic Church and the existence of man through like creation. And that's just like not correct. You can believe in the principles of evolution and still appreciate the significance of creation via God. And I talk about that in my in multiple chapters. I talk about it at the end of chapter 1. I talk about it in chapter 3 when I'm talking about the existence of God. But essentially I discuss that you can't like open your hand and just like spawn something. Like I can't just create something from nothing at all, right? And so I take that and I load it all the way back to the Big Bang. And I'm like, okay, like the Big Bang does well to explain a lot of natural phenomena, such as the currently expanding universe. And it kind of just gives a good framework for why everything exists. but how did the Big Bang even happen? Like, where did it come from? Like, why did it happen? Like, if nothing ever existed, like, how could anything have ever existed, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I think that the only reasonable answer is to just A, agree that we don't know the answer, and then B, say that there must be some other higher power that may have created the Big Bang, right? So maybe the Big Bang is accurate, but it didn't just spawn from nothingness. It was created by a higher power.
Which is God.
Which is God, yes, which we will define as God. And that's exactly what I did in the book. And I said, well, if God exists and created the Big Bang, then everything that evolution and the Big Bang says can be accurate. It just was started by God. And then from there, the universe began and life began on Earth, at least, through the most prevalent theory is that life began with like little microcells in the ocean and like little hydrothermal vents. And, they began to, evolve, blah, blah, blah. And then now we're here.
Yes.
And so that can all be accurate, right? But it's like, where's the beginning? And I say that the beginning was God, and everything that happened after that was evolution with some minor nuances, man and the existence of human souls. Like that gets a little bit more complicated. It's all explained in here, though. I would have to recite the entire book to be able to explain it.
But that makes a lot of sense. Right. So it's like they're both correct, and they're kind of like mixed in together.
Of course. I think that that's really because why I was so conflicted when I was like here and like putting all these thoughts onto paper was because like the common notion is that you're either, in favor of the church and the belief of existence through creation, or you believe the principles of evolution. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be that way. Both can go together, and one can fill in the gaps that the other cannot. And even I mentioned this in the book, chapter 4 of the book, there was a Pope. Gosh, I wish I remembered his name, but I think it was Pope John in like the 1980s, and he was talking about the principles of like evolution and science. And he was like, as the leader of the Catholic Church, I'm concerned with the creation of man. And because I'm concerned with the creation of man, I have to, thoroughly investigate all different ideologies for the creation of man. And because of that, I don't think that the principles of evolution can be completely disregarded. And so he acknowledges the necessity for science, but he offers some like caveats to, these are the things that you must believe in order to believe in God, right? So some of those things are like, each human has a human soul that is the product of God, created by God, and not a result of evolution. Every single human soul, like your soul and my soul, are not the same soul. Like we have unique souls that were created for us. And then God is the ultimate creator of everything. And so he set those three principles out, and he was like, if you believe in these three things and you can rationalize that these three things are accurate, then the gray area in between the lines is open to rational interpretation.
That makes sense. That's pretty clear. Dang. And how did UST like affect your thought? And
right. So my freshman year, I took a class, Intro to Bio 1, with Dr. Amin Shivez. He's still here. My younger sister just took him for biology. And I also dedicated the book to him as one of the influential professors at St. Thomas. But that's really like when everything started, and I was learning about population biology, ecology, and then like evolution, and how like yeast evolved and everything, and how fungi evolved, and where humans came from, like on the phylogenetic tree. And so I was confused, to say the absolute least. Like I was confused, and I was also taking like Theology 1, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? So after like a whole year of that, I was just like completely mind jumbled, and I was like, I don't know, like what's right. I don't know what's going on. I tried to talk to like my family, my parents, like anybody, just like see the input. But it was just like, everybody is under the notion that you either agree with evolution or you agree with the principles of the Catholic Church. And I was just like, but they're both right. Like, what do I do? And so that's when I started writing, just like typing everything out. And then as I began to take more classes in like theology, philosophy, and science, I just began to like gather more information. And I would just go to my professor's office and kind of just like pick their brain to help like get information from my book. And so by the time I was in my junior year and I was taking like an ethics course with Dr. Kondik here, I went to his office and like sat there for hours, and we were talking about like morality and where morality came from. And the conversation was completely inconclusive. It was just like a lot of it was a lot of speculation. He was like, I can't give you like solid answers because I don't know. But he was like, but this is what I think. And I was like, okay. And so I took those ideas and I put them all into chapter 2. And that's probably, I think chapter 2 is like the longest chapter in here because there was just so much information I was trying to condense into it. Yeah.
So UST like really influenced you in writing this book.
Yes. UST primed me to become a qualified applicant for medical school through my biology classes. I learned a lot of information just like that was really helpful for me taking the MCAT. And then I got offered a lot of experiences that were wonderful for like my application for medical school. Like I worked at MD Anderson Cancer Center, and that was set up by the University of St. Thomas. So like that was very helpful. And in all of my like med school interviews, that was like a really big talking point for a lot of the different interviewers. And so I owe that to UST, but not only that, they stimulated me in different ways, in both like spiritually, like mentally, and that's ultimately like what created me to like write the book. So I'm a medical student and I wrote the book, and it's all really attributed to the University of St. Thomas.
Yeah, I think that's what's so cool about St. Thomas, that they not only teach you like your major, but they teach you how to be like a good and complete whole person.
Right. And I think that that's really valuable. And so when like my younger sister and my younger cousin were like, where should we go? Like, should we go to the University of Houston or other schools? And I'm not bashing any other colleges at all. I'm not doing that. But I was like, listen, if you're considering St. Thomas and you both want to be biology majors and you want to go to medical school, you want to become physicians, we know that St. Thomas is a wonderful school to do that for you. And it not only that, it will nurture you in different ways, because you're not just learning the things that you need to be a doctor, but you're learning things that can help you in your spiritual journey, which is really like important. That's what you have at the end of life, is your spiritual journey.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Deep, right?
No, that was perfect. That was so good. Yeah, no, that's like one of the reasons that I like love St. Thomas, and it's so good. So like these questions about like God and everything, why like does that matter? Like, why is it important for people in their daily lives?
I think for me, at least, honestly, these questions are not something that like many people think of on like a day-to-day basis. No. They don't like walk around thinking, oh my gosh, does God exist? Like,
no, they're worried about like what they're going to do next, what they're having for dinner, not these big
existential questions. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at what point in people's lives do they think about these things? Probably not until like the very latter portions of their lives, like when they're getting close to like death. Right. And then they're like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen? What happens? Like, do I have a soul? Like, does God exist? Like, what is going to happen to me? And so I like recognized that. And I was like, but like these questions are like everlasting and they need like answers. And like, these are things that we should be thinking about so that we can know how to live our lives effectively, so that when we get to that point where we're like ready to move on or like pass away, that we can say that, we lived a good life. Right. And then like, obviously the question is like, well, what does it mean to live a good life? And so I like tried to offer a framework for that. In the last chapter of the book, chapter 5, I kind of, I listed the Cardinal Virtues like in the Catholic Church. And I was like, okay, well, these are what they are, and this is why they're relevant. And like, what does it mean to live a good life? I said that based on multiple principles that I discussed in the book, like I defined what a human was. I said that we are rational animals. And yeah, it's like, you may be like, what the heck is he talking about? But it's like, if you read the book, it would be a little bit more clear. It's like what I was saying. At the end of the chapter, I discussed like why that's relevant and what that means for humans. And in order to be a good human, we have to perfect what it means to be a rational animal. And so it's relatively complicated, but it's really just making the best decisions based on rationality and the goodness that is naturally inclined by your soul. So I said that our souls are just naturally inclined to do good things, and our brains sometimes can affect what our soul wants. But if we perfect the concert between the brain and the soul, then essentially we've perfected what it means to be a good human. And then we just have to work through that every single day in order to live a good life.
That's so good. I like that.
Thank you.
And why? Why should we be a good person?
Besides the fact that it's nurturing for our souls, I think that each human has an obligation to one another to be good people, because that's the basis in which society functions, right? Like, we have laws that are put in place by humans in order to make sure that our society is functioning well and that people aren't, being stolen from or attacked or like murdered for free and like nothing. There's no repercussions. And that's because like inherently we know what's right. Like, we know what should be done and how humans should act. And so from a solely like societal standpoint, each human has an obligation to be a good human so that we can all live good lives. We all have the opportunities to do that, because we don't have the opportunity to do that if society breaks down and everybody's running around stealing and murdering, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Dang. That's awesome.
Right. Thank you.
Anything else you want to talk about? Your book? Anything else? Medical school? UST?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that I'm going to open the book up and I want to just say thank you to some of these professors in here. Dr. Amin Shives, I mentioned him. Dr. Sermansky, she's currently a theologist here. She's a nun, and she really helped stimulate me when I was thinking about just like the existence of humans via creation. And Dr. Frolick, he taught an evolution course here in my last year, which kind of like helped tie all my ideas together. Dr. Kondik was the one that I like consistently was talking to about different moral principles. And then Dr. Rebard teaches metaphysics at the University of St. Thomas. And he's the one who really kind of started the whole, theory of contingency for why God exists, and the other principles for like, why must there be an ultimate creator? And then I just acknowledged Anthony Shanar, Ella Shanar, and others who helped me edit this book.
Nice. Okay, wait, so you wrote this your sophomore year. When did you like publish it?
You started
sophomore, and
it
then
took until last semester to publish.
No way.
Yeah, my second year in medical school, September, because like there was points in time where I was writing, and then I'd stop for like a few months because I got busy with like other things, like applying to medical school and starting medical school, and I just like didn't have time to contribute and like edit the book. But I like found time, like as I was moving forward, I was like, okay, now's a good time, maybe let me just read over this chapter and maybe just like edit this. And that's also when like I kind of enlisted like my younger cousin and my younger sister to like help me just like read and like edit like small grammar mistakes that I may have missed, And so after, reading over this book like 55 times, I finally was like, okay, like it's probably not going to get any clearer than this. I'm just going to publish it. I did, some cover art for it, had somebody make me some nice cover art, did the copyright for everything, and then finally got it published September 5th of 2021.
Congratulations. That's so awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being on Bold. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, guys. So check out his book, A Search for Truth, on everywhere.
On everywhere. On Amazon,
everywhere.
especially.
On Amazon. Okay. And check him out on Spotify. Yeah. Everywhere you get your music.
Instagram. Hit me up. Yeah.
Pimp yourself out. Where can people find you?
Instagram. Like, find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. Just Google me and you can find me.
Period. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bold is a podcast produced by Mac Studios at University of St. Thomas in Houston. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook at Mac Studios UST.